Today we're digging into a really powerful and I think challenging idea from the psychologist Rollo in his classic book Power and Innocence. We're basically going on a search for what truly causes human violence, and I'll tell you right now, the answer is probably not what you're thinking. Okay, let's get into it.
So, let's just start with the main question. When you think about violence, what do you believe is the root cause? I mean, really think about it for a second. What's the engine behind it?
For most of us, the answer seems pretty obvious. We've all heard that old saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's kind of baked into our culture, this belief that violence is what happens when people get too much power and just want to dominate everyone else. But here's where Rollo just flips the whole script. He asks us to consider something radical. What if our entire understanding is completely backwards? What if violence isn't a product of strength at all, but of weakness?
And that is the central idea of his 1972 book. It's a work that really forces you to take a hard look at your most fundamental beliefs about power, about innocence, and, what it even means to be human. So to really get our heads around this, we're going to walk through 5 key ideas from the book. First, what he calls the paradox of violence. Then, we'll look at why a certain kind of innocence can actually be dangerous. After that, we'll redefine power with the power to be. Then, we'll tackle why love, by itself, isn't enough. And finally, we'll see how this all leads to a new kind of human ethic.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the paradox of violence. This is where we unpack May's really radical theory.
So, this lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have the conventional view we all know. Power is the problem. But on the other side is May's bombshell idea. It's not power, but powerlessness that corrupts. He argues that violence isn't the act of the strong, it's the desperate, last-ditch cry of the impotent.
And May puts it so bluntly here. He's saying that violent acts are often just people trying to build up their own self-esteem, to prove that they matter in a world that's made them feel like they don't. And this is the absolute key. Violence isn't the real problem, it's a symptom. The disease is feeling powerless.
So let's build on that. This leads us to part 2, when innocence is dangerous. Now, I know that sounds completely backwards, but May argues that our usual idea of innocence is a huge part of the problem.
Now, he's not talking about the innocence of a child here. He actually coins a term for it, pseudo-innocence. This is a choice that adults make, to be willfully blind. It's when you pretend you don't have any power, any influence, and you refuse to see your own role in the bad things that happen. It's basically a shield to avoid the messy, difficult realities of the world.
And the price for that choice is incredibly high. When you cling to this fake innocence, you stop yourself from growing, from learning anything new. You cut yourself off from what it means to be human, the good and the bad. It's a way to claim you're pure while taking zero responsibility for the world around you. May uses this incredible quote from the playwright Arthur Miller to really hammer this point home. Trying to maintain this perfect, spotless innocence in our complex world isn't a virtue. It's a kind of madness. It's a total disconnection from reality. Okay, so if powerlessness is a disease and innocence is a trap, then what's the answer? Well, this brings us to section 3, the power to be. This is where we totally redefine what power even is.
May goes right back to the root of the word. Power comes from the Latin word posse, which just means to be able. It's not about domination. It's about the basic human drive to exist, to have some effect on the world, to feel significant. It's the ability to just stand there and say, I am here, I count.
And he lays out this whole spectrum. We usually only think about that first one, exploitative power, just raw domination. But he says as we mature, we can move up to competitive power, then to nutrient power, which is power for others, like a parent taking care of a child, and then finally to the highest level, integrative power, which is power with others, working together.
So the whole point isn't to get rid of power. It's to cultivate this healthy, positive version of it. The power to be is just that basic ability to stand up for yourself, to affirm your own existence. Because without it, we start to fall apart, and when we fall apart, that's when we can become violent.
Okay, so now for another really challenging idea in section 4. Love is not enough. We almost always think of love and power as total opposites, right? Well, May says that's a really dangerous mistake.
So the myth is that to be a loving person, you have to be meek, you have to give up your power. But May's reality is that you can't have authentic love without power. You have to have a self, a strong, solid sense of self to be able to truly give anything to another person.
Because if you try to love without that inner strength, that self-assertion, the relationship just falls apart. One person either completely surrenders their identity, or they use love as this subtle tool for manipulation and control. Real love needs two whole people who can both say yes and no.
And all of this leads us to the final section, a new human ethic. So after all this, how are we supposed to live in the world, knowing what we know now about power and innocence and violence?
Well, May's new ethic is all about radical self-acceptance and responsibility. It means we have to let go of that pseudo-innocence that tells us we're the good guys and other people are the bad guys. It means finally acknowledging that all of us have the potential for both amazing creation and terrible destruction inside of us.
He uses this beautiful, kind of haunting quote from Albert Camus to sum it all up. Our job isn't to pretend that our own dark side doesn't exist. Our job is to recognize it, to confront it, and to consciously choose to build instead of destroy, both inside ourselves and out in the world.
And so, that's where this explainer leaves us. According to Rollo May, trying to get rid of power is completely misguided and frankly dangerous. Power is our birthright. It's just the ability to be. The real challenge, the real ethical question for every one of us isn't if we have power, but how we choose to use it. Will it be for domination or for care? For destruction or for creation?